picture the scene. It's 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're sitting in a conference room. Maybe it's an interview for a job you desperately want, or maybe it's a quarterly review with the VP of operations.
A high-stakes situation.
Totally.
Yeah.
The air conditioning is humming.
Yeah.
You've got your water. You're feeling prepared. The conversation's flowing nicely. You're hitting all your talking points.
That's in zone.
Exactly. And then it happens.
The curveball.
The absolute curveball. The person across the table leans back, maybe narrows their eyes a bit, and asks a question that you did not see coming. And in that split second, the lights go out. I mean, it's not just that you don't know the answer. It says your brain effectively unplugs itself.
It just shuts down.
It does. You know the information is in there somewhere, buried under this layer of panic, but you can't get to it.
And the silence starts to stretch out.
Oh, it's deafening. 1 second feels like 10. You can feel your heart rate just climbing up your throat.
It is a universally visceral experience. I think everyone, from interns to CEOs, recognizes that specific cocktail of adrenaline and, well, shame.
Yeah.
It's the classic deer in the headlights phenomenon.
It really is. Hello, welcome to Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is How to Handle Difficult Questions.
I'm really looking forward to this one. We have a massive stack of research today, everything from, behavioral psychology to linguistic theory. And we're going to tear it apart to figure out exactly what happens in that moment of panic.
And more importantly, how to fix it. Because our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty specific. We aren't just giving you a list of phrases to memorize.
No, that's not the goal.
You want to fundamentally change the way you react to pressure. We want to take that moment where your brain freezes and give you the architectural blueprints to build an answer out of thin air.
Right. We're moving beyond just, take a deep breath. We're going to look at the cognitive science of why we freeze, the specific taxonomy of difficult questions, and we have some counterintuitive strategies. For example, we're going to argue that saying "I don't know" might actually be the highest status move you can make in a negotiation.
Which sounds insane, honestly. If I'm in an interview, I don't know, feels like the kiss of death.
It feels that way.
It feels like admitting defeat.
It does feel that way, yes. But the data suggests otherwise. If you do it right, it's all about the delivery and the pivot, which we will definitely get into.
Okay. I remain skeptical, but I'm willing to be convinced. So let's jump right in. Before we can fix the problem, we need to understand what is actually happening under the hood.
Yeah.
Why do we freeze? Is it just nerves?
Well, nerves play a huge part, but it really helps to deconstruct the difficulty. If we look at the taxonomy of tough questions, we see that not all difficult questions are difficult for the same reasons.
Okay.
And if you can identify why a question is hard, you're already halfway to solving it.
Okay, let's break that down. What's the first category in this taxonomy?
The first type is what we call content complexity. This is where the challenge is purely intellectual. Someone asks you to explain the nuances of quantum entanglement or analyze the impacts of a specific economic policy on inflation.
So in that case, the struggle isn't finding the words, it's that the concept itself is just incredibly dense.
Correct. You need a deep grasp of the subject matter to even begin to answer. The difficulty lies in the topic itself. You have to synthesize these complex data points on the fly.
Right.
But then we have a category that is, I think, very specific to our listeners here, language barrier.
Oh, I know this one well. It's that frustrating gap between your brain and your mouth.
Exactly.
But is it just about not knowing the vocabulary, or is it more than that?
It's deeper than that. We really need to talk about cognitive load theory. When you are speaking your native language, the mechanics of grammar and vocabulary are largely automated.
You don't think about it.
You don't have to think about them, no. But when you're learning English or speaking it as a second language, you're running a manual process.
Like driving a stick shift versus an automatic car. That's a great analogy.
That is a perfect analogy. You have the answer generation process, figuring out what you want to say, and the translation layer, figuring out how to say it.
And both use up mental energy.
They both consume mental energy or working memory. So when a tough question hits, your stress levels spike. And stress, well, it reduces working memory.
So the system just crashes.
Effectively, yes. The cognitive load becomes too heavy. You might know the concept perfectly. In your native language, you could give a brilliant, eloquent answer.
But in English.
But in English, you're searching for that specific vocabulary term, or you're getting tangled up in grammar structures, the bandwidth is just maxed out.
It feels like your brain is running a marathon while juggling. That explains why I can know a word on Monday but completely forget it on Tuesday during a presentation.
Indisputably. The stress literally blocks access to that file in your brain. And that, of course, naturally leads to the third category, emotional triggers.
Okay, so this sounds like when someone asks about a past failure or something personal.
Yes. Questions about weaknesses, past conflicts, or even controversial opinions. Tell me about a time you cost the company money. Or, why is there a gap in your resume?
Ouch. Yeah, my stomach drops just hearing those.
See? The difficulty here isn't the facts. You know what happened. The difficulty is emotional regulation.
Right.
You might feel defensive or embarrassed or ashamed. When the amygdala, the brain's fear center, activates, it hijacks the prefrontal cortex, which is the part responsible for logic and language.
So you're literally fighting your own biology.
You are. You're fighting the fight or flight response while trying to appear calm and professional. It's a massive physiological conflict.
What about when you just don't understand what they're asking? That's a whole other kind of panic.
That is the ambiguity factor. Sometimes questions are just poorly worded, they're vague. Someone might ask, so what do you think about it? And you're sitting there thinking.
About the project, the budget, the coffee we're drinking.
Exactly. And you feel stupid asking for clarification, so you try to guess, and that's where it goes wrong.
You end up answering the wrong question entirely.
The challenge there is deciphering the intent. You're trying to read minds, which is notoriously difficult. And finally, we have pressure contexts. This is the environment itself.
The spotlight effect.
Precisely. You could answer a question easily over a beer with a friend, but put you in a boardroom with 5 executives staring at you.
Or in an exam hall with a ticking clock.
And that same question becomes a mountain.
Yeah, time constraints are a killer. Knowing you only have 30 seconds to answer can make your mind go blank instantly.
It creates a cognitive bottleneck. So understanding these categories is the first step. Is it the content, the language, the emotion, the ambiguity, or the pressure?
Once you spot the enemy, you can choose the right weapon.
That's the idea.
I love that framework. So now that we've diagnosed the problem, let's talk about the cure. And I think it starts in the head, right? We need to talk about the inner game.
We do. Before we get to the specific phrases or, the techniques, we have to address the mindset shifts, because if your mindset is working against you, no amount of vocabulary will save you.
And the biggest one, I think, is this fear of silence, this need to fill the space.
The myth of the immediate answer.
Yes. We feel this urge to answer the second the other person stops speaking. It's like we're playing tennis and we have to hit the ball back instantly. If I pause, I feel like I'm losing.
That is a very common impulse, especially for language learners. We think that speed equals fluency.
Right.
We think that if we pause, it shows weakness or a lack of understanding. But the reality is quite the opposite.
Is it really? Because if I ask you a question and you just stare at me, that's awkward.
Well, there is a difference between a deer-in-the-headlight stare and a pensive pause. Think about high-status individuals, CEOs, professors, seasoned diplomats.
Okay.
When they are asked a complex question, do they snap back and answer immediately?
No. Usually they take a moment. They might look up or nod slowly, take a sip of water.
They embrace the pause. Silence is actually a sign of thoughtfulness. They are signaling, this question is important, and I am going to give it the consideration it deserves.
So they use silence to organize their thoughts.
Exactly. And rushing actually makes us look less competent.
How so?
Rushing leads to rambling, unstructured answers. When you deliberately take a breath or say, let me think about that for a second, you are signaling that you take the inquiry seriously. You are demonstrating confidence.
You're showing you're comfortable enough in your own skin to make them wait.
Make them wait for your wisdom. It turns the power dynamic around.
I like that framing. Make them wait for your wisdom.
So what's the action here? Just breathe.
It sounds simple, but yes. Physically taking a breath calms your nervous system. It counteracts that cortisol spike we discussed, and it buys your brain that crucial processing time.
Okay, shift number 2. And this is the one I pushed back on in the intro. The fear of, I don't know. This is a huge barrier for so many people. We view ignorance as a character flaw. We think if I say I don't know, I'll look incompetent, I'll lose the job, they'll think I'm a fraud.
So we make stuff up, we dance around it.
Which is always worse. If you bluff, you aren't just risking being wrong, you are risking your integrity.
Right.
If an expert catches you lying or even just guessing badly, that trust is destroyed instantly. The shift here is to reframe, I don't know. It is not a permanent label of stupidity. It is just your current state regarding that specific piece of information.
Okay, but just saying, I don't know, and stopping there,
Yeah.
that's still bad, right? That's a dead end.
That is a dead end. The key is that I don't know should never be the end of the sentence. It's the beginning of the answer.
Okay, can you give us an example of how to do that effectively?
Sure. So instead of just saying, I don't know, and looking down at your shoes, you say, I don't have that specific data in front of me, but I can find out and get it to you by this afternoon.
Ah, I see.
Or, I don't know the answer to that specific case, but here is what I know about similar situations.
So you pivot from what you don't know to what you can do or what you do know.
Precisely. Or you can even turn it into a collaboration. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? It shows confidence and curiosity. It changes the dynamic from an interrogation to a discussion.
That leads nicely into shift number 3. Viewing questions as opportunities, not as attacks.
Yes. When we feel attacked, we get defensive. Our body language closes up. Our tone gets sharp.
We get prickly.
Very. But usually people aren't trying to trap you. They are genuinely interested. Or they're giving you a platform.
A platform to shine.
Yes. Even a tough question is an invitation to share your expertise, to clarify a misunderstanding, or to demonstrate how you handle pressure. If you view the questioner as a partner rather than an adversary, your entire demeanor changes.
And for our language learners specifically, there's a 4th shift, and I think this is so important: the acceptance of imperfection.
This is critical. We often paralyze ourselves seeking perfect grammar. We want the sentence to be absolutely flawless before we let it out of our mouths.
Yeah, you're editing in your head and you just end up saying nothing.
But in communication, clarity beats perfection every time.
So even if I mess up a verb tense, if the message gets across, I win.
You win. I mean, native speakers stumble constantly. They forget words. They restart sentences. They leave sentences hanging all the time.
That's so true.
Your goal is message transmission, not flawless syntax. If you can't find the perfect word, describe the concept. If you can't use the complex grammar structure, use 3 simple sentences instead. Just keep communicating.
That is so liberating. We are so hard on ourselves about errors that, honestly, nobody else even notices.
True. The listener is focusing on the idea, not the conjugation.
Okay, so we've got the mindset. We're embracing the pause, we're okay with not knowing everything, and we're aiming for connection, not perfection. Now let's get tactical.
Let's do it.
I'm in the hot seat. The question lands. I need time. What do I do?
Welcome to the tactical toolkit for buying time. Or, as I like to call it, the art of the stall.
I love a good toolkit. What's the first tool?
Bridge phrases. These are your best friends. These are pre-memorized phrases that you can deploy automatically while your brain is fetching the real answer.
Okay, give us the hits. What should we be saying?
Phrases like, that's an excellent question. Or, I'm glad you asked about that.
Simple.
That is a complex issue. Let me think about the best way to explain this.
They sound so natural, but they are also very specific. Why do they work so well?
They work on a few levels. Let's look at it grammatically and cognitively. When you say, that is an interesting question, you are using a very simple subject-verb-object structure.
Low effort.
Very low cognitive load. It requires almost 0 brain power to say because you have memorized it as a chunk.
So it allows the language center of your brain to go on autopilot for a few seconds.
Exactly. It frees up your processing power to work on the content of the answer. Plus, socially, they show respect. They validate the questioner.
And 4 seconds is a lifetime when your brain is racing.
It is enough time to calm the panic and organize your first real sentence.
Okay, bridge phrases. Got it. What's next?
The repeat or rephrase technique. This is where you mirror the question back to them.
So if they ask, how would you handle a conflict between 2 team members?
You would say, so you are asking how I would navigate a disagreement between colleagues when they have, say, conflicting approaches.
And while I'm saying that, I'm planning my answer.
Yes, but you are also doing something else very important. You are confirming you understood the question.
Oh.
Remember the ambiguity problem. This solves it. If you misunderstood, they will correct you right then, saving you from answering the wrong question.
That's brilliant. It's a safety check and a time buyer in one.
It also proves you are an active listener. It makes the other person feel heard.
Okay. Then we have clarification. This seems obvious, but I think people are afraid to use it.
They are. But it's crucial for those ambiguous questions we mentioned earlier. Don't guess, ask.
Like, are you asking about X or Y?
Or, can you give me an example of what you mean? Could you clarify what you mean by scalable in this context?
But does asking for clarification make you look stupid?
On the contrary, it makes you look precise. It shows that you care about accuracy. A smart person defines terms before answering.
A foolish person just starts talking.
Pretty much.
And I assume we should try to avoid the ums and is.
We want to minimize them. Yes, those are non-lexical fillers. They signal nervousness. We want to replace them with thinking sounds or lexical fillers.
What's the difference? An isn't it?
Not quite. Instead of a frantic use a deliberate or well or let me see.
It sounds more pensive. It's a subtle shift, but I can hear the difference. Sounds panic-stricken. Sounds professorial.
That is the goal. And finally, for the truly complex issues, use the professional deferral.
That sounds fancy. What is it?
It's just giving yourself permission to delay. You can say, that deserves a thorough answer. Can I gather the data and get back to you?
That's okay to do.
It's more than okay. If you respect the question enough to not give a half-baked answer, people respect you for it. It sets a boundary.
You're saying, I care too much about quality to rush this.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've bought time. We've starred like a pro. Now we actually have to answer. And this is where I think people get lost. They just start talking and they don't know where they're going.
Rambling is the enemy of impact. This is where we need architectural blueprints. You need a structure to hang your thoughts on. If you just start talking, you will likely get lost in the weeds.
Let's talk about the PRAP method. I feel like this is the Swiss Army knife of answers.
It is. It works for opinions, analysis, almost anything. PRP stands for point, reason, example, point.
Okay, walk us through it. Why does the brain like this structure so much?
It utilizes what psychologists call the primacy and recency effects. People remember the first thing you say and the last thing you say.
So you hit them with the important stuff at the start and the end.
Exactly. So you start with your point, the headline. I believe remote work is essential for productivity.
Boom. Clear stance. No ambiguity.
Then the reason why. Because it allows for deep, uninterrupted focus. This appeals to the logical side of the listener's brain.
Okay, makes sense.
Then the example. This is crucial. For instance, our coding team saw a 20% output increase when they worked from home. This provides concrete evidence. It anchors the abstract reason in reality.
Right, it makes it real. And finally,
you circle back to the point. So that is why I support remote work. It ties a bow on the package. It prevents you from trailing off or wondering how to end the sentence.
It's a loop. You know exactly where you need to land.
It is incredibly comforting for the speaker because you always know what comes next. No getting lost.
What about for interviews? Tell me about a time when questions, pre-brae feels a bit short for those.
For behavioral questions, you absolutely want the STAR method. This is the gold standard for storytelling in a professional context. Situation, task, action, result.
I love a good story. How does STAR work in practice? Let's use a specific example, maybe something technical.
Okay, let's take a database error, a classic IT nightmare.
Perfect.
Situation. In my last job, we found a critical error in our customer database right before Black Friday. You are setting the scene and the stakes.
High tension. I'm listening. Got it.
Task. My task was to fix it without taking the site offline and disrupting any orders. This defines the constraint and the goal.
So the mission. Okay.
Then the action, and this is key, focus on what you did, not what the team did. I reviewed the code, I identified the bug in the SQL query, and I implemented a patch. Use I statements.
Yeah, the hero of the movie.
Exactly. And finally, the result. This has to be quantifiable if possible. The system stayed up and we processed record sales with zero downtime, which was a 15% increase over the previous year.
It's a narrative arc. It has a beginning, a middle, and a happy ending.
And crucially, it ensures you don't spend 10 minutes describing the problem and forget to mention the solution.
Oh, that happens all the time. Candidates get stuck complaining about the situation and run out of time for the result.
The STAR method keeps you disciplined.
What about when you're talking to executives? I've heard they have short attention spans.
For them, you use the pyramid principle. You flip the script entirely. You start with the conclusion, the bottom line first.
This is bottom line up front, right? Or BLUF.
Yes. You'd say, my recommendation is that we should buy this software. That's the tip of the pyramid.
Oh.
Then you give your supporting arguments. There are 3 main reasons. It saves money, it's faster, and it's more secure. Then you break down those 3 points if they ask for more detail.
It respects their time. It says, I know you're busy, here's the answer.
And if they agree with the conclusion, they might stop you right there and say, great, approved. You save everyone a lot of time.
And finally, what if we have to weigh two options? You're not sure which way to go.
That's the comparison structure. Option A has these pros and cons. Option B has these pros and cons. After weighing them, I recommend option B because it demonstrates balanced thinking.
You're showing your work.
Exactly. You aren't just impulsive, you've weighed the evidence.
These structures are lifesavers. It's like having a map before you start driving. You don't have to invent the road.
It reduces the cognitive load. You don't have to think about how to organize your thoughts, just what to put in the slots.
All right, we have the mindset, the stall tactics, and the structures. Now I'm going to throw some specific difficult scenarios at you. These are the ones that keep people up at night.
The scenario survival guide. Let's do it.
Scenario A, the unknown answer. We touched on this, but give us the definitive strategy. You're asked something and you genuinely have no idea.
Honest confidence. The phrase is, that is outside my expertise right now, but I can find out.
And then follow up.
You must follow up or offer what you do know. I can't speak to that specific legal statute, but generally our policy is you pivot to your area of strength. Just never lie. Lying is a short-term fix with very long-term consequences.
Got it. Okay, scenario B, the weakness question. What is your biggest failure? Or what is your greatest weakness?
The trap here is the humble brag. Please do not say, oh, I'm a perfectionist or I just work too hard.
It sounds so fake. It makes me roll my eyes immediately.
It's completely insincere and interviewers hate it. They've heard it a million times. The fix is to be honest about a real struggle, but frame it around growth.
Can you give us a concrete example?
Sure. You could say, I used to struggle with public speaking. I would get terrified before presentations. So I realized this was holding me back, and I joined a Toastmasters club. I'm still nervous sometimes, but now I can present to the team effectively and even enjoy it.
I see. So it's problem action improvement.
Exactly. It shows self-awareness and the ability to learn. That is what they are actually testing. They don't care about the weakness. They care about how you handle adversity.
Okay, next. Scenario C, the multi-part question. You know, when someone asks 3 questions in one breath, how will this affect budget, timeline, and team morale? And also, what about the coffee machine?
The overwhelm tactic, yes. The strategy is to first acknowledge the complexity. You've asked about budget, timeline, and morale. That's a lot to unpack.
You're buying time again.
A little. But then you ask for priority. Which one of those would you like me to start with?
Oh, that's good. That puts you back in control. It forces them to organize their thoughts.
It does. And then use signposting as you answer. First, regarding the budget, now moving on to the timeline. It helps everyone keep track. It's like putting chapter markers in a video.
Love it. Scenario D, the hostile question. The one that feels like a trap or an attack. Why is your plan so expensive? Or do you really think this will work? This is where emotions can flare up.
Stay calm. That is rule number 1. Don't take the bait. Don't get emotional. We want to use a technique from negotiation theory called validation.
Validation. Does that mean I agree with them? Yes, you're right. It's too expensive.
No. Validation is not agreement. Validation is acknowledging the emotion or the perspective behind the question.
How does that sound?
I understand why the cost is a concern. Or, it sounds like you were worried about the feasibility of the timeline.
Ah, I see. You are labeling their emotion. It sounds like you were worried.
Exactly. When you label a negative emotion, it tends to diffuse it. You are saying, I hear you. Once the emotion is lowered, you can pivot to facts.
So after I understand your concern about the cost,
let me walk you through how the initial investment will actually save us 30% in the long run. You stick to evidence, not emotion. Find common ground if you can.
That is very subtle but powerful. You disarm them by understanding them.
Correct. It is hard to attack someone who is actively listening to you.
And finally, scenario E, the personal question. Someone asks something inappropriate or just too private, maybe about religion, politics, or family planning.
You need to recognize your boundaries. You are not obligated to share everything. Use a graceful boundary phrase.
Like what?
I prefer to keep that part of my life private, but I'm happy to discuss my professional background.
Simple, polite, firm.
And then move on immediately. Pivot to a new topic. Don't dwell on it.
Okay, we are moving into the deep end now. Section 6, advanced maneuvers. These are for when you want to handle questions like a seasoned politician or a CEO.
These are high-level techniques for sure. First up, the bridging technique. This is the art of acknowledging the question, but steering the conversation to your core message. You see politicians do this all the time.
Sometimes it's really annoying when they do it, though. They just dodge the question.
It can be annoying if done clumsily, absolutely. But done well, it keeps the conversation productive. It's the classic acknowledge plus bridge plus message formula.
How does it sound in a business context?
Let's say someone asks about a minor delay in a project. You could say, that is one perspective, acknowledge, but what is really important to consider here is bridge, the long-term quality of the product message.
So phrases like, what's really important is, or the key issue is, those are the bridges.
Yes, it allows you to avoid getting stuck in a negative frame like a delay and pivot to your strong points like quality.
Okay, next up is the flagging technique.
This is about giving the listener a roadmap before you drive. Simple, but very effective. There are 3 main factors here.
It sets expectations. It makes you sound organized.
Incredibly organized. If you say, I have 2 points to make, the listener's brain opens 2 little mental boxes just waiting to be filled. It helps them follow complex logic without getting lost.
I like the sound of the boomerang technique. That sounds fun.
It is effective. You turn the monologue into a dialogue. You essentially throw the question back gently.
So that's a fascinating question. What prompted you to ask?
Or I'm curious about your perspective on this. It buys time, but it also engages the other person. It levels the status playing field. Instead of student-teacher, it becomes peer-to-peer.
A word of warning, though. Probably don't use this in an exam where you are supposed to be the expert.
Right. I don't know, Professor. What do you think? Probably won't get you an A. This works best in collaborative settings, not tests.
Then there is strategic reframing, changing the terms of the discussion.
This is very powerful. If someone asks, why is the company failing? You don't accept the premise of failing. If you answer, we aren't failing because, you are still reinforcing their negative word.
So how do you handle it? What do you say?
You reframe it. You'd say, I wouldn't use the word failing. I would say we are currently taking a sustainable approach to slow growth to ensure long-term quality. You reject the negative label and replace it with your own positive frame.
You change the lens through which the issue is viewed.
Correct. You control the narrative.
And the last one, the layered response.
This is for mixed audiences. Imagine you are presenting to a room with an engineer, a marketing manager, and a CEO. They all need different levels of detail.
Right. So you can't just get super technical, or the CEO falls asleep.
Yeah.
And you can't be too high level, or the engineer thinks you don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. So you layer it. At a basic level, it works like this. To add a little more nuance for our marketing team, and for the technical experts in the room, here are the specific specs.
It makes sure nobody feels left out or overwhelmed.
It demonstrates your depth of knowledge and your adaptability as a communicator.
So we have all these amazing strategies. But like any skill, you can't just read about it. You have to train. How do we build these habits? How do we make this stuff automatic?
You need to go to the gym for your communication muscles. First, vocabulary building.
But not just random words from a list.
No, absolutely not. Create a phrase book of those bridge phrases, transition phrases, and time-buying phrases we discussed. Practice them until they are automatic. That's an interesting point. Should be as easy to say as your own name.
It needs to be muscle memory.
It does. Then active listening is another big one.
What does that look like in practice?
Study the pros. Watch TED Talks. Watch interviews with people you admire. Don't just listen to the content. Watch how they handle the Q&A. Notice when they pause. Notice when they bridge. Notice what they do with their hands when they're thinking.
It's like watching game tape for athletes.
Exactly. And try to distinguish between the literal question and the underlying concern. What are they really asking? What's the fear or hope behind the words?
For our English learners, thinking in English is a huge habit to build.
It is. It reduces that translation lag time we talked about at the very start.
Yeah.
Narrate your day in your head. I am making coffee, the water is boiling. It sounds silly, but it keeps your brain in English mode. It keeps the engine running warm.
And what about actual drills? Like
Sure.
games we can play to get better?
I love the question jar. Write random questions on slips of paper, put them in a jar. Every morning, pull one out. What is your favorite season? Explain how a bicycle works. Defend your opinion on pizza toppings.
And then
Just answer it.
take 30 seconds to think, then speak for 2 minutes and record yourself.
Listening back is painful, though.
It is, but it is the fastest way to improve. You will hear your filler words. You will hear where you rambled or lost the thread.
Okay, you've convinced me. What else?
There is also the 1-minute expert. Pick a totally random topic, coffee, shoes, clouds, and speak about it for exactly 1 minute. No stops.
What's the point of that?
It forces fluency over perfection.
Yeah.
You learn to keep talking even when you stumble. It's about maintaining momentum.
And the escalation exercise. That sounds intense. It's not so bad. You just explain the same topic to 3 different people. First to a child, then to a peer, then to an expert. It trains that layered response capability we talked about. It forces you to adjust your vocabulary and structure on the fly.
We also talked about emotional regulation. It's hard to do any of this if you're panicking.
Very hard. A simple trick is to name the feeling to yourself. I am feeling defensive. Just naming it creates distance. And breathe. I know we said it's a cliche, but deep belly breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It physically calms you down. It tells your brain, we are not being chased by a lion.
Feel your feet on the floor. Ground yourself in the room.
Posture matters too. If you sit up straight, you actually feel more confident. It's a real biofeedback loop.
Finally, we have to touch on cultural nuances, because handling it well can look very different in Tokyo versus New York versus Berlin.
Huge differences, yes. In North American business culture, for example, directness is highly valued. I don't know is generally acceptable if it's followed by a solution. And challenging authority respectfully is often seen as a sign of leadership.
But in other cultures,
In some high-context cultures, indirectness might be preferred to save face for everyone involved. Saying, I don't know, directly might be seen as a significant failure. You might need to hedge more to be more diplomatic.
so you have to read the room.
You have to read the room and understand the cultural expectations of your audience. It adds another layer of complexity, but awareness is key. If you know who you are talking to, you can adjust your strategy accordingly.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We have. From the psychology of why we freeze those language barriers and emotional triggers, to the specific phrases that buy us time, all the way to the structures like STAR and PPP that organize our thoughts.
The big takeaway for me is that handling difficult questions isn't about being a genius who knows everything. It's really about not panicking.
It is about preparation, structure, and mindset. It is about having a process to handle the unknown. It's knowing that when the curveball comes, you have a mitt to catch it, instead of just letting it hit you in the face.
And realizing that you don't have to be perfect.
That is the final thought I want to leave everyone with. Mistakes are learning opportunities. If you start an answer and realize you're wrong, or you could say it better, it is so powerful to say, actually, let me clarify that.
It's not weakness.
It is not weakness. That is confidence. That is integrity.
It's about connection, not performance.
Spot on.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. I feel better prepared for my next tough meeting already.
Me too. It's always good to refresh these skills.
If you found this deep dive helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really helps us keep bringing you these explorations.
And good luck with your next difficult question. You have the tools now.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you in the next deep dive.